Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media channels. Of course, we can find us on the El Paso History Radio Show Facebook page, El Paso History TV over on YouTube, as well as similar pages on Twitter and even Twitch.tv, those majorly under Andrew J. Polk, as well as on some of our partner Facebook groups and pages, including Remember in El Paso When. This is, of course, the place where we say Texas history begins in El Paso. We do have a history moment today at the top of hour 2 from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk, talking today about some other of the mountains we're going to be discussing, at least in part here today, including the creator and actual architect, among other things, sculptor being the correct phrase there, of the Mount Cristo Rey statue, talking about Orbici Soler. But joining us here in studio today to talk about mountains and all the things that go in, on, around, and about them, joined by a couple representatives from Celebration of Our Mountains, including William Lukefahr, the vice president of the board, and Eric Kappus, board member, both with, again, Celebration of Our Mountains. So thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Andrew.
Absolutely happy to have you all on, as we usually do something about this time of year, because there's a couple of confluences that come together. Is that usually the weather, exempting what's going on this weekend, is getting a little bit nicer, a little bit more amenable, and a little bit more not so cold, not so hot, don't have to be off the mountain by 9 a.m. kind of situation that we get into later into the year. So it's a good time to get around with it, and people are often thinking, okay, what can I start getting out and doing about here? So this is one of the best times that y'all have. A lot of stuff going on, and in this particular example, this particular year we're going on about, there are some very interesting and impactful changes that you all are doing within the organization that people would probably want to know about, so that they can plan around this. So, still having events, still having things going on, but essentially we are going to be seeing a lot of changes from y'all, kind of a both from the ground up and branching out is kind of the way we were discussing it, right?
Going back to our roots for sure.
Absolutely. So we'll be talking more about that, and then specifically today to kind of highlight some of the hikes that you'll do. We'll be mentioning a bunch of them, but there is quite a lot of history of, unfortunately, plane crashes around the Franklin Mountains, specifically from previous eras. I mean, there was one, as has been noted by some local publications, of a period of a couple of years in which there were, not necessarily just in the Franklin Mountains, but around the whole area, literally dozens and dozens killed and injured as well, and some of those you are still able to see and even get out to. So we're going to be talking further about those and some of the hikes that you all have done, including going to like the memorial plaques and things like that. So that's part of the history we'll also be exploring today, along with the history of the organization. So, as we often do when we come into this show and doing this kind of fresh each year, we often mention Celebration of Our Mountains here, because we're very happy to have been helping y'all promote what you all do and promoting different aspects of El Paso's history. But for anyone that has maybe listened to this show before and not quite sure what that part was, or has never listened before and has no idea what we're talking about, when you start talking about Celebration of Our Mountains, kind of as both the concept and then the organization, where do y'all start?
So the organization was started by Phil Goodell, who's a UTEP professor since 1975, and he's a geology professor, and in geology we go on field trips, and so Phil just decided to open up his field trips for his classes to the public, and everybody loved the idea, and pretty soon others from El Paso Independent School District and from the local parks and stuff like that got involved, and the organization grew into, 50, 60 field trips every October. And so it was kind of a fall thing, in October when the weather's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then just a couple years ago, the organization started promoting events year-round as well.
Right, yeah, you all have often had an extensive calendar at different points in time here, so to kind of demonstrate some of that, there have been many different hikes that you all have done, been on, about, or around, including some of like Scenic Sundays, where you all were visiting, among other things, some of the historic corals that can be seen up on the, again, Scenic Drive kind of area. Have that picture up over there, because that might just look like, okay, isn't that just a kind of a weird, funny looking rock? And that's kind of the stuff that y'all talk about, including, of course, Phil Goodell is mentioned there, being a geologist by trade and training, and so being able to explain that what we're actually looking at there is ancient fossils and specifically corals, right?
Yeah. So I think I'm El Paso's biggest fan of these corals. I mean, it's real hard to get people excited about coral, especially dead coral. But I think I'm the biggest fan of these corals in El Paso. And I just have to tell you, Andrew, I don't think I mentioned this, but this same rock with these same fossils is the rock that St. Clement's Church was built out of on, what is that, Montana and Campbell, I think is where it is. And so you don't even have to hike up the mountain to see these fossils. You can stop at St. Clement's Church any day of the week and check out these fossils in the whole wall. And Celebration of Our Mountains also does a field trip to St. Clement's Church every fall.
Exactly. So that's kind of a good case in point of the fact that y'all are going up into mountains. I mean, Celebration of Our Mountains is still a good demonstration of it, going up there. And we're going to be talking about some of those hikes specifically up into the mountains as it relates to these crashes we'll be talking about, primarily of the couple of bombers or other military aircraft that have been in and around our area and crash into the Franklin Mountains. But that kind of case in point here, both going to see, up in the mountains and then to other locations, because it's not just about the mountains. I mean, as much as that's certainly a focus and certainly important, there are other areas, facilities, places that y'all go to, such as just there's some previous ones that y'all have been to, such as like the Border Patrol Museum, the War Eagles Air Museum, which is going to be relevant definitely to what we're going to be talking about with history today, and even just to things like bike rides or even wastewater treatment plants, which you might think, okay, how does that relate to mountains? But the kind of concept that y'all go with is not just the mountains and not even just the natural environment, but the entirety, human, historic, the physical environment that we inhabit, right?
Right. Yeah, we're trying to branch out really, and not just our own events. Of course, it started off more of a geology field trips, but now we have astronomers with telescopes doing night events. We have biologists doing night hikes to go look at creepy crawlies, go look at scorpions underneath UV lights and things. We have archaeologists teaching more history. So we're really trying to branch out, and again, especially our hikes, we normally try to have an expert there. So it's not just a regular hike, but it's a guided hike. You can ask questions and, really get the most out of that experience.
Absolutely. So at least a couple of the things that y'all are working on is including about some involvement of some of those figures we mentioned coming back to be more directly involved with the organization as it is now, and also kind of a going back to the roots kind of way you mentioned there, beyond the branching out of starting to have recurring public meetings, right?
Yeah, so in the beginning when Phil started the organization, they had regular meetings, monthly meetings, and it was just all volunteers. And everybody got together. They would invite their friends to recruit new leaders. And so we got away from that for a while, but this spring we're bringing that back. I mean, as part of the going back to our roots thing that William mentioned, or branching out, we're bringing back the Arduinos meetings, the monthly meetings. It's informal. Arduinos offered, I think, to give us 2 pictures or something. So hopefully not a lot of people go to the meetings. But anyway, Arduinos has welcomed us for these meetings and any meetings for the longest time. And they also do an event. They do an artistic event, as we were talking about. I mean, William was saying how much we've already branched out. And so we have plein air painting events at Arduinos, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so yes, we're going to meet the last Thursday of the month, each month, at Arduino's Desert Crossing, 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Starting in April.
Okay.
Our first month. So if you're listening to this and you would like to lead a field trip, an educational field trip, if you, anywhere, any place that you know that you can share and teach people about, we would love to meet you. Please show up at Arduino's. not just for free beer, because it'll be gone by the time you get there.
Like you said, 7 p.m. starting last Thursday of the month, starting then in April this year. And so, of course, if people want to get a hold of you all or ask questions about this even in between, with Phil Goodell kind of returning now to leadership within the organization that he essentially started, they have a good email for him as well in order to reach out, find more information even between the meetings. And, of course, his email is philipgoodell43@gmail.com. That's philipgoodell43@gmail.com. So people can also reach out there and get the information and just find out or just make connections. There's more here, but again, free and open to the public meetings going on at Arvino Desert Crossing last Thursday of each month, 7 p.m. starting in April.
Yes, and I do have a message for everyone from Phil Goodell. He says, "Boomo!"
Yeah, Phil couldn't be here with us today, but I'm sure we'll be talking with you and them all a lot more because we often talk about the events that you all have going on here, and I'm often very excited to do so. So some of the history that we're going to be delving into today that is also as exhibited by events that you all both have had and will have in the future, up to some of the plane crashes that exist again there on the Franklin Mountains. Here we have an example of at least one of the bits of wreckage that can actually still be seen there on southbound Franklin on, I do believe this is the west side of the mountains, if I'm not mistaken, and there's even a couple of different angles, including some that pictures that y'all have taken. This one is of the B-36, and this is the purported last picture of that airframe, that particular airplane taken by a person in El Paso. So we're going to be talking more about some of the circumstances and even what was going on in and around this throughout the rest of the show. And again, the hikes that you all have going up to this and, of course, other locations there. So again, if you're just joining us here with me right in studio right now is William Lukefahr, Vice President of the board, and Eric Kappus, board member with the celebrations of our mountains. Again, their meetings at Arvino's Desert Crossing last Thursdays of each month starting in April at 7 p.m. But talking a lot more about them, history of the organization, what they got going on, and some of the history that you can experience along with them on these hikes. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this first break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are, of course, the El Paso History Radio Show over on Facebook. You can go there for our weekly promo announcements about the upcoming subjects of each and every week, as well as the recordings of the previous ones. Also, similarly, over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/El Paso History TV, where you can find, again, the show and the entire series of El Paso Gold DVDs from Capstone Productions, covering more than the last couple of decades of history production, uploaded fully for free for your viewing pleasure, including, in addition, the additional 20 recent segments from ABC 7 TV from El Paso History TV, focusing on kind of those moments of importance and sites around our area to introduce it to the next generation there. Also a reminder to support some of our advertisers. Pepe's Restaurant in Canutillo is open for in-house dining at 6761 Doniphan Drive. You can call Pepe's at 915-877-2152. That's 915-877-2152. Again, out there at 6761 Doniphan Drive. It is home of the one and only margarita, and I'll be headed out there right after this broadcast bout concludes today, as we are airing here on Saturday. So if you want to meet us out there, often people go out there to talk about different aspects of our history. But again, joining me in studio here right now, we are joined by William Lukefahr, the board vice president of the board, as well as Eric Kappus, board member with Celebration of Our Mountain. So we were mentioning kind of what's involved whenever it comes to being involved with the organization and the meetings that you all are going to be having. Again, last Thursday of each month starting in April, so next month, 7 p.m. at Ardovino's Desert Crossing. But you mentioned about being able to have an event or be a part of it and potentially host a hike. And so that is there's one of the things that Celebrations of Our Mountains you all often pride yourself on is the quality of it. This is not just about kind of hey, I think there might be something interesting out there, let's go explore. You kind of expect a level of preparation, knowledge, and education purpose for those going along with it. So if anyone's interested in doing that, the way to start that would be to start having the conversation with y'all by starting to go out to these now public meetings, right?
Yes, and remember, so Phil Goodell started the thing, and he's an expert geologist and an expert field geologist, and so he began to welcome people on his educational trips. And so in some way, shape, or form, most of our events, whether they're a field trip or a museum tour or to tour I think you showed the water treatment plant, any of those tours and stuff. It's kind of understood that it would be a knowledgeable guide. We call them knowledgeable guides. I don't know about expert. That word gets thrown around, but knowledgeable guides and in different things. But for sure, all of our guides have to know how to take care of a group. So just knowing how to get to some cave or something is not enough for us. We make sure we have guides who take care of everybody, and we do that by meeting up at Artavino's, chatting, and people most of our field trip leaders offer field trips within their expertise. I do geology and fossil field trips, for example, and so most people don't even offer a field trip unless they have something to teach about, right?
Right. I think the most important thing is being passionate about, right, what you're teaching others about, especially trying to make those connections. It doesn't have to be an expert scientist, just someone who's interested in the subject or passionate.
Yeah, and this, I got a segue here. So, and this, for example, our crash site hikes that we're going to be talking about. The field trip leader who did the most of those, he was doing, I think, 7-8 hikes a year or 11 or something. He's not a historian. He's, not a aviation expert, but he does fantastic hikes. He teaches about everything. He knows all the history. He learned it. He's passionate about these field trips, like William said. So you don't have to be for example, I do edible and useful plant field trips, but I'm a geologist, I just happen to have a personal interest. So yeah, I mean, it's like that. You have to be passionate about it.
So this is volunteer. You all do this way, but you expect a level of professionalism that comes along with it. I guess would say if you want to go on hikes, you want to participate them, you want to go on these field trips, you're perfectly welcome to, but you want to be leading them or be a part of it that way, there's just maybe not professional is the right way, a level of quality that is expected when we're getting associated with celebration of our mountains, right?
Right. I mean, that's one of the reasons we want to have these public meetings is so we can talk to people, pick their brains, kind of get a feeling. And we always talk about our hikes, before we just go out and do them. We normally ask for a little proposal. Where is it? Directions to get there. Sort of a general theme. What will the hike be about before we post them on our official events?
Absolutely here. So again, those meetings going on Artavino's Desert Crossing last Thursdays of each month, starting in April, 7 p.m. And again, email right now. Best way to contact y'all would be through the now board president, Philip Goodell 43 at gmail.com. That's PHILIPGOODELL 43 at gmail.com. Continue our conversation with them again about what's going on with Celebration of Our Mountains, going on the whole tree pictures we're talking about here, both returning to roots and branching out, as well as some of those hikes and that history involving the plane crashes in and around the Franklin Mountains. So stay tuned after this next quick break right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, Invest in real estate. M1EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the Old Griggs Mexican.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. This is usually the part of the show we would mention how we appreciate some of our other great partners in promoting different aspects of local El Paso history, including celebration of our mountains. But, of course, they are going to be, and are still, joining us here in studio right now. So, instead, we're going to mention one of the other things that is going on in and around the region today. Specifically, guests from last week's show, the El Paso Train Show, that is going on more or less as we speak, as this is airing today on Saturday, because it's going till 5 p.m. today out at 850 Hawkins, just south of I-10 on the Freeport-McMoran Copper Refinery entire area. And you can go and see some of the historic trains and features along with it, including very specifically the SB 3420 that'll be out and around there and able to kind of see how it operates, and a lot of the other history of the railroads here in the Southwest. So again, that's the El Paso Train Show, free and open to the public. There are food trucks, kids activities, etc. going on out there as well. Again, 850 Hawkins, south of I-10, going on until 5 p.m. today at the Freeport-McMoran Copper Refinery. So joining us here in studio right now, we do, of course, have representatives from Celebration of Our Mountains. Again, from my left to right here, we do have William Lukefahr, Vice President of the board, as well as Eric Kappus, board member, again, with Celebration of Our Mountains. So we are talking about a lot of what's going on with the organization and the stuff that you all do, specifically the hikes to get out there, and in very specific today, kind of putting this and framing this around what has been a recurring series of hikes over the years that I've been aware of, and actually now that I'm realizing it, never actually been able to go up there to this one, but as we were mentioning, history of plane crashes in and around the Franklin Mountains. We'll be talking about some of the ones that you all do specific hikes to, and so probably one of the, easily I would say, most famous one that has at least most commonly come up when I've ever talked with anyone about it is the B-36 crash in the Franklin Mountains. So we do have some representations of that aircraft and of that airframe more specifically. So this is the B-36. This is a very interesting and arguably unique aircraft because it was a transitional airframe. For those that are looking over on our social media on the streaming sites that we've got, it was a big damn thing. I mean, it's comparable in size to the B-52 even of today, even if this was almost immediately after World War II came into existence here. And so this picture shows the entire both air crew and like ground maintenance for the entire facility on not even the entirety of the wingspan of the plane itself. But one of the most distinctive things that people can kind of see there if they're looking at it is that this has both jet engines and turbines. It does have, the old, super prop propellers on it there, but with the props actually facing backwards, for most people would think. They're pushing propeller engines. So one of the phrases that has always stuck with me is that on takeoff, I've seen some older videos of like B-36 training or like introductions, almost like you can kind of get the voice in your mind of the old, like almost World War II propaganda films. This is the B-36 kind of thing going on. And so, 6 turning, 4 burning was at least some of the phrases used on this. And so it was the United States strategic bomber for a while here and based out of, among other things. And part of the reason we have the plane crashes to talk about it here is that what is now Biggs Army Airfield was at that point in time Biggs Air Force Base. Kind of had this interesting back and forth, both starting out as, just as the Army Air Corps field, then becoming Air Force after World War II, and then returning to be Biggs Army Airfield as it exists today after the Air Force no longer decided they need it. So a couple of pictures both of the one of the big buildings that I do believe is still out there, as well as the actual runway itself from satellite view, USGIS info there. So the B-36 crash site, as it exists, the whole story that comes along with that is interesting, but just for the hike portion of it, for having been up there, you've been up there and on those tours as well, Eric. So when you actually approach it, what's it like?
So you start off at the old north end of Stanton at the trailhead of the 1,000 Steps Trail.
Right.
And the name of that trail should be threatening right off the bat. So then you leave your car all ready to go, and the first hill climb, we call that Cardiac Hill, and it's brutal. So it right away weeds out the people who shouldn't be hiking up to the plane crash. Then you get on an old road, and that's a wonderful walk. And then at some point you break off from the 1,000 Steps Trail and go up one of the arroyos up the side, or canyon, small canyon, up the side of the Franklin Mountains. It's real easy to get there. You walk the 1,000 Steps Trail and you keep looking uphill for a rock formation that looks like a rabbit, like rabbit ears. A smaller thing, and it's unmistakable. And you head up the canyon straight towards the rabbit, and you'll start to see debris in the canyon. So that's kind of a sobering thing. You're walking up the arroyo and enjoying the desert and checking. I mean, for me, checking out the plants and rocks and reptiles or whatever. William finds that stuff better than me, but then you start to see garbage in the arroyo, and it's kind of weird. You're halfway up the mountain to see garbage is weird. And then you realize, hey, this is aluminum. This is chunks of metal. And then you start to see parts of a turbine. There's I think a turbine mount. And then you start to realize, wow, there's a wreckage here. So it's a profound experience. It is a challenging hike. It's not for beginners or people who don't hike. I've been up there several times with groups. And people always go, I can make it, and they don't. They turn around and suffer.
Yeah, to make it pretty clear of it here, and we'll get into the story about how the crash actually happened a bit more in a second, but this is most of the way, if not entirely all the way to the top up the side of the west side of the mountains here, just to make that clear. Like, you can actually see the crash site from well further down, like either at the end of Stanton, like where there is a memorial plaque that was installed some years ago as well. But even further off, if you know the right place to look, you can spot it from a good ways away because it's up there. It is up there, and that's why, among other things, the crash happened. Seen some notes that, yeah, you gain about 1,000 feet to get to where you're going there. So it is not, and that's just the vertical. So that's not even about how long it is to then just, the horizontal distance. So, yeah, challenging would be, I think, a good way to put this here. But it is out there and available and accessible, even outside of, tours that you all do. But if people are wanting to learn about this, would certainly encourage them to go on this kind of thing because, as we mentioned, we all try to make it informative and have people that are willing to do so, and that's kind of a very, very important part of it, including some of the people who have been willing to learn about this over the years, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and the difference, for example, William does a field trip to, just to totally change the subject, William does a field trip in Carrizozo, a couple hours north, but if you go on that field trip with me, I don't talk about the reptiles. I don't even find anything. And you go with William and you have a completely different experience. And so you go up to this crash site and you're going to find some junk but you go with someone who's educated about it, a passionate leader, and it's a different experience. And so, yeah, a lot of our field trip destinations, you can go there on your own, but you're not having the same educational experience that you would going with our organization.
Right, that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and an important part of it here. So I got a couple of pictures we're putting up right now of what some of that debris actually looks like here. So this is probably one of the more famous ones we put up on our promo announcement for this episode anyway, of the actual, I believe that's part of the landing gear that can still be seen up there, as well as one of the props, one of the propellers that is still visible up there as well. It's kind of interesting because at that point in time, so this happened 1953. So we are in the midst of the Cold War at this point, and this was, the B-36 was the United States' premier strategic bomber at this point in time. So this is not a picture of that airframe on Biggs Army or Air Force Base at that point in time, but that's an example of how it may have been laid out and set up because it was part of the Strategic Air Command at that point in time. So these were the things that were going to be ready to go to be involved in that next potential, hopefully not, but duck and cover type era conflict of what was going on, of the potential for nuclear or thermonuclear war. So it was pretty heavy stuff, and that's why there were all these operations going on in and around our area. So the fact that some of that is still up there is interesting because this was high military secrets, the actual technology of it at the time, because that was like literally, this was how the front line of war was expected to be fought at that point in time. Ever since, the dropping of the bombs on Japan to end World War II, it was expected that, yeah, these would be the weapons used to be decisive for the future. And they were based, among other things, here in El Paso with these B-36s. Thankfully, retrospective history, the B-36 never actually had to really be used in a fully declared war. Again, thank very much for that, despite all of the possibilities and vagaries of history that people living through it may have been uncertain about at the time. The B-36 ended up being retired without being directly involved in, again, a fully declared war like that. But the fact of the matter is that operations in our area, and again, this is one of the more kind of haunting pictures related to this, because this is supposedly the last picture of the actual B-36 that ended up crashing into the Franklin Mountains. So the story goes that it was buzzing around the area, that it was a aircrew transferring to the area, and we're unfamiliar with it. And it was kind of, this is a black and white photo, kind of taken pretty hastily, but with a little bit extra vegetation in the foreground. Someone didn't quite get the angle right, but you can clearly see that very distinctive, propulsion systems, both the six props, and then the two jet turbines sticking out at the end, almost like a little nub sticking out there. So you can see that clearly, and that was because someone took this picture because they had, this one plane was flying around for a long time because it was an aircrew transferring to town, and the Biggs Army or the Biggs Air Force Base at the time, and wasn't totally aware, was having either equipment malfunction, so the story goes, and wasn't able to quite clear the peak, essentially. And so they hit not even that far from the top of the Franklin Mountains, maybe a couple 100 feet down, depending on how you estimate it, but just did not clear it, and so went in full speed as they were essentially on an approach run, and that's why there is still so much up there, because as much as some of the most important parts of the airframe were kept secret, so the story goes that it might have even been dragged into a canyon in order to keep it from being able to be seen any further, but there's still a whole lot spread around there that can be seen out there today.
Yeah. And another thing I didn't mention that's profound, when you walk up, you start to find chunks of black stuff in the arroyo, a very weird black substance. And once you get to the crash site, you realize it's the burnt earth and plastic and whatever else melted and burned.
Yeah, there's aluminum that's encased in the rock from it melting into it.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons you can see this site from way off. You can't necessarily see without like optical aids, binoculars, telescope, etc. Individual parts, individual pieces of the wreckage, even if they are sizable. They're just, it's far enough away. But the kind of blackening of the area from where that happened, among other things, I think still at this point in time there may have been still a significant use of magnesium parts. And the thing about magnesium, and it's a light metal, it's a useful metal. You'd think it'd be great for airframe construction, light and flexible, but strong. It burns. It catches fire, and particularly at high temperatures like that, will just continue to burn. And if that can only be put out by being immersed in sand and deprived of oxygen. So that's part of why high temperatures, jet fuel, among other things, and that site is still very visible, and why the hike to it is significant in its own right. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, continue our conversation, of course, with Celebration Our Mountains, both about their hikes, the history that is exemplified by it, and how you can get involved. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Given-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano, and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. and at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. You can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso-Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Given-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for for the El Paso History Radio Show, that is, here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk, talking about some of the other great partners in promoting different aspects of El Paso's history, including the musical part of it, Rick Kern's music podcast, Talk and Rock Radio. You can find him online at talkandrockradio.com. That's talk, A-N-D, rockradio.com, where there is quite a lot of history and musical performance history, both of bands, individuals, different things coming through in around our area, including somewhat currently as well. Again, talkandrockradio.com. But again, joining us here in studio right now, continuing to be here, is William Lukefahr, Vice President of the Board and Eric Kappus, Board Member with Celebration of Our Mountains. So we're kind of framing this around both what's going on with you all and the organization, some of the both rebranding, branching out, returning to roots, all these tree-related activities that we're talking about, as well as the stuff that is constantly going on and through the lens of some specific heights, particularly those related to crashes of aircraft, particularly military aircraft we have seen in and around the Franklin Mountains. But something else that you all are doing, part of the branching out that you're mentioning, is even talking about both, of course, y'all's hikes and what you got going on there, but even for other organizations as well, you're happy to promote and send people along with those, because there's a lot of stuff to both physically and mentally explore in our region, right?
Definitely. People, there's that stereotype that there's nothing to do in El Paso.
Oh, yeah,
completely
forget
wrong. We're trying to promote the opposite of that. There's always something to do in El Paso. Mm-hmm. And normally there's a lot of organizations. It's hard to keep track of it all. And we kind of want to go towards that, where we're promoting other people's events instead of just our own. So people all throughout the region, Las Cruces and Juarez included, can see what's going on around.
Absolutely. So a lot of information y'all have and have had still up there, particularly for you all in the organization over on y'all's website, which has always been a little bit of a mouthful, Celebration of Our Mountains. Best way to find y'all is to just kind of Google that. It's kind of undergone or soon to be revamped there for a bit. So as we're recording this here, mid-March of 2023, there's going to be more information, more things changing over there before too long. So that's why we're saying for the moment, if people want to go find out basic information of the organization, it's a good place to do so. But if they want to contact y'all, find out what's going on kind of at the moment, beyond, of course, the meetings that y'all have been starting up now with Art of Vino's Desert Crossing last Thursdays of each month starting in April at 7 p.m. to again email the board president philipgoodell43 at gmail.com. Again, PHILIPGOODELL43 at gmail.com, because again, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things that you all are both revamping, refocusing on, and getting back to, right?
Yeah. And there are a ton of William Marty, he stole my thunder about these people who say there's nothing to do in El Paso, but it's just not true. And if you, again, here's my plug, if any of you listening belong to an organization and you have groups, you have events, and they're educational and they're pro Paso del Norte, we, as Celebration of Our Mountains, would love to promote your events. And part of the changes we're undergoing is to make it easier and make our website and calendar easier and more available for people to promote their own events. For example, William, you want to tell us, give us an example of a Sombro Institute?
Yeah, the Sombro Science Institute. They're a nonprofit educational institute in Las Cruces.
Mm-hmm.
They teach all about the Chihuahuan Desert from pre-K up through high school, going to schools. But they own if you haven't been to the Chihuahuan Desert Nature Park, that's north of Las Cruces in the Dona Ana Mountains, it's a great place to go hiking. And, other kinds of events too. For example, my sister's in a wheelchair, and a lot of the hikes that I try to promote normally have sidewalks and pavement and cement. So,
sure,
not all hiking is rough and tough. We love people getting outdoors, and especially people with disabilities or limited mobility. We also try to have some events too where, we're just going to a park or, going someplace that you can even take kids in a stroller, babies, anybody and everybody.
Like I said, a lot of different types of things, and sure, mountains is a focus, and you can see them from most of the places that y'all go or y'all focus on, but making it not even just about that, the geology, the hiking into it, but of the, entire physical environment that we inhabit out here, a lot of the focus that you all have. So again, joining me in studio right now, William Lukefahr, Vice President of the board, as well as Eric Kappus, board member. Again, all a celebration of our mountains. We'll be talking more with him in the second hour of the program here, but right now we got to take that break to hit the top of the hour and the news. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano, and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on YouTube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on YouTube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Given-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the...
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. We're going to be continuing our conversation with the Celebration of Our Mountains crew. We have in studio with us to talk about what they got going on, the both returning to the roots and branching out that's going on there. And, of course, the many events that they have, promote, talk about from other organizations, and some of the specific hikes that will be kind of framing this around with the plane crashes that have happened in the Franklin Mountains, talking about last hour the B-36, getting into the B-24s, plural, this time around here. But starting off hour 2 of the program, as we usually do, with a history moment from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk, talking this week about one of the more visible aspects in mountains around our area, that of the sculptor for the Mount Cristo Rey monument, Urbici Soler.
Urbici Soler was a sculptor and art educator. He is known chiefly for his monumental statue of Christ the King atop Mount Cristo Rey in the El Paso suburb of Sunland Park, New Mexico. He completed the sculpture in 1939. It is now a site of annual Roman Catholic pilgrimages. Urbici Soler was born in 1890 in Catalonia, Spain. His Christ the King shrine is not a crucifix, but the risen Christ standing in front of the cross. The project was begun by Father Lourdes Costa, pastor of the Smeltertown Parish, which covered both the New Mexico and the Texas sides of the Rio Grande. Costa got funding from the Diocese of El Paso to purchase 200 acres from the New Mexico Public Land Office for the statue and to build a cross. Costa first erected a wood cross, then a steel cross built by the efforts of people in the Smeltertown Parish. The statue Urbici Soler created is 40 feet tall, including a 9-foot base. It's composed of concrete, steel, and Cordovan cream limestone that was quarried near Austin, Texas. The head of the statue is elongated so that the figure appears of natural proportions when viewed from below. The sculpture was completed in 1939 and dedicated in 1940. When the diocese ran short of money, Soler completed the front of the statue with his own funds. He joined the faculty of what is now the University of Texas at El Paso in 1945 and became a U.S. citizen in 1949. Soler built a house at the foot of Mount Cristo Rey in New Mexico, where he lived until his death in January 1953. The Texas Historical Commission placed a marker at his gravesite in El Paso's Evergreen Cemetery in 1984. I'm Jackson Polk with this history moment for the El Paso History Radio Show.
And, of course, I'll just mention some other great partners in promoting the different aspects, and even our show here, of course, for El Paso and regional history. The great Facebook group, Remember in El Paso When, with, of course, Barbara Given-Bainey, operator of such. Go there for archive pictures galore. More than 34,000 members as of last check. Please remember, the administrators have worked hard for researching photos with our history attached. When you use their photos, they ask that credit be given to their site. And a lot of credit, again, to be given to Chief Admin, Owner, and Historian Barbara Given-Bainey, affectionately known as BGB, along with admins Rick Duncan, Rick Nakara, Margaret D. Smith, and Jim Gerber, along with moderators Ben Vincent and Dan Graves. They're always looking for a few more good hands and eyeballs on this, because it's no mean feat to keep a group of that size on track and on scope without any kind of spam or things like that, of which they do a very good job. So, again, if you want to check them out or join them, or even join their moderation and administration crew, Remember in El Paso When, name of the Facebook group, Remember in El Paso When. But again, joining us here in studio right now, we do, of course, have William Lukefahr, the Vice President of the Board, and Eric Kappus, Board Member with Celebration of Our Mountains, another group that we often talk about at these promos and moments, getting into segments when it comes to our program here, because the work y'all do with having different hikes going on in and around the region are important, including one that is very much related to, frankly, both of y'all, because of either discovery or ongoing tours with it. As we were talking there with the history moment, that of Urbici Soler and the Mount Cristo Rey monument. Of course, nearby, or just down the hill, so to speak, from there, are, of course, these features, which have a very good demonstration here from Insights Museum, I believe, of the dinosaur tracks in the area, right?
Yeah. That figure is from a paper from 2003, but that's stop. The photo you're showing is stop one on the Dinosaur Tracks tour. William still actively leads tours for Insights, Science Discovery. That's what they're now called.
Okay.
And they also, I mean, mentioning 200 something acres at Mount Cristo Rey, they also own 200 something acres. So,
with the base of it.
Yeah, the base of Mount Cristo Rey, and the diocese does still own the top of Mount Cristo Rey, 200 acres, give or take.
It's an interestingly positioned area, because I've even had sometimes people either call this show or all the related ones and say, hey, what do I need you to go hiking out there? And the short answer is, if you're going up to the top, don't. If you're not going with a large group or at one of those appointed times, because there's literally signs out there saying, hey, don't go up here. But there are other sites, because, I mean, the way it's positioned with the base of the hole, and I love saying this phrase, I want to say I may have heard this from Phil Goodell, or very least adjacent to Phil Goodell, of the hyperbasial andesite Pluton. That is that whole formation. I love saying that phrase anytime I get to talk about it, because of the fact that it was a volcano that never happened. And so that's fascinating to me, and the fact that it's now positioned. It's often said that geography is destiny, and that very much applies to this area, because it's the base of that whole egg-shaped looking thing, if you're looking at it from the satellite view of the volcano that never happened, is in 2 countries, 3 states, and all of those fun things that come along with it. So it's an interesting area. But so, of course, the area we're talking about there with the actual dinosaur tracks, that's in New Mexico specifically, right?
Right. It's in Sunland Park, New Mexico. Like Eric was saying, about 200 acres is owned by the diocese on top. The Science Museum owns the other 200 acres right below it. But there's a lot of going on there. The American Brick Plant Company.
Oh, sure.
Of course, the Paso Water Commission. A lot of people use that area for different things.
But so if you people want to go out there are, again, like you mentioned, different tours, different things going on, be able to see these. And, of course, at this point, I always think about the discovery of it here, because, Eric, you were a major reason that these were recognized as what they are today. Because the thing that people may be getting, just to pop that photo up one more time here, is that they may be looking at the picture we've got here, the diagram, saying, okay, yeah, I can see how those look like dinosaur tracks. But the fact of the matter is that no one else had looked at it this way, because we're not looking at a picture of the floor here. This is not flat on the earth. This is up on a wall. People can kind of tell if they're looking over on our social media. There's a bush there at the bottom. This is a photo taken as someone like standing normally, snapping a regular landscape photo, because it's just the way the geography and the geology happened there. It's up on a wall, so that's not something that a average person would be looking for tracks on, right?
Yeah, I mean, in geology, we say, in science, we say you find what you're looking for.
Sure.
And I was into footprints for a long time before I came to El Paso, so I was already looking for footprints everywhere anyway. I had the typical interest in dinosaurs. I mean, everybody thinks dinosaurs are cool, right? And so I had the normal interest. I wasn't particularly searching for dinosaur fossils, but I was looking for footprints everywhere. But yeah, and it, lucky us, now El Paso has dinosaur footprints. All the professors at UTEP used to say, El Paso has everything from introductory geology except dinosaur fossils. And now we have dinosaur fossils. So you take a introductory geology class at EPCC or UTEP or early college, high school, whatever.
Sure.
Every single thing in your textbook you can see in our region. It is a one-of-a-kind place, and that's all most of that's at Mount Cristo Rey.
Absolutely. And so the fact of the matter is that, I mean, these footprints, when they were made, would have been, on the ground and, flat, as walking across was, as we talked about, I think the last time we had you all on the show about the, umpteen different oceans or periods of time when this area was covered by water. It would have been ashore of a lake at that point in time when all these were left in. That would allow for the prints to be preserved as they were. But then the formation of Cristo Rey kind of pushing the ground up and creating that raised, therefore, the tracks and puts them essentially on a wall now, which is why, again, you don't usually go looking for footprints on a wall, because that's not how most people would intuitively think about it. And so that's why that's interesting and unique out there. And one of the things that y'all can look at involving the tours and events that you all either have or promote here. So again, that's, I guess, kind of a good case in point of celebration of our mountains and what you all do, even as you are doing the branching out and returning to roots as you are. So again, y'all going to be returning to not too far from this site either. We're just kind of going from nearby to nearby with these concepts here, both Cristo Rey, the dinosaur tracks, and of course then Ardovino's Desert Crossing, where y'all are having those monthly meetings returning to now, right?
Yeah, I mean, William and I we're two of the people that love Mount Cristo Rey the most, at least in the scientific community here. And yeah, so much of what we do is over at the base of Mount Cristo Rey, whether it's Ardovino's or doing William does dinosaur tours as well now for insights, and then we have research. We just had a cleanup. We brought guys down from Albuquerque to do research just a couple weeks ago. So yeah, we're over at Mount Cristo Rey a lot, but I don't mind. It's my favorite place in the world.
Yeah, it's not just the dinosaur tracks. There's plants, a great place to go bird watching, all kinds of history out there.
William and I found an archaeological site out there with the help, based on the advice of a UTEP professor, Dave Carmichael. We went out scoping, and we're not archaeologists, but we found an archaeological site. And Dr. Carmichael, then it was worth his time, and so
helped us do the groundwork.
Yeah, so he came out, and oh gosh, he found 100 times more things than we found. But yeah, there's archaeology, the train history, the railroad history, the railroad tracks cut across Mount Cristo Rey. And then, of course, the Camino Real al Adentro. Did I say that correctly? That trail.
Yeah, the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, I think you're mentioning there.
Yes.
Okay.
And that went on either side of Mount Cristo Rey, depending on, the period in history. So it's and also, I mean, the bend in the Rio Grande here, it comes south and then it kind of heads east. You could argue it's redirected by Mount Cristo Rey.
Pretty much runs straight into it, and even some of the phrases I've seen back in history. And there was even we've had some previous conversations with the group over at the International Boundary and Water Commission, how there was kind of what we're talking about there, where the trains and the river intersect, that the big Native American brick plant, the big railroad bridge, that the other side of the embankment used to come down with large geologic formations there as well. So the part you still kind of see on the New Mexico side of the river was present there on the Texas side as well. And so there was actually a plan at one point in time to dam that. And so it could have been, instead of, being Elephant Butte, could have been right there. And all the implications that would have come from that for the area. So there's a lot of, that's a pretty good confluence area of history among many, many other things. Again, just kind of bearing out the whole geography is destiny kind of thing here. So that's part of what you all get into and part of what you all talk about there. So with those meetings, again, Ardovino's Desert Crossing that you all are restarting now, happening the last Thursdays of each month, starting now in April, going to be 7 p.m. happening there. Because these are the kind of things that if people are interested in, want to talk about, or potentially lead tours on, they can come out and meet with y'all and see what's going on, right?
Yeah. And, I learned so much about El Paso from these meetings and the people that I met at these meetings. So, yes, we're a nonprofit organization, and we provide field trips, and we take our business seriously.
Sure.
But all my favorite people in El Paso I've met through this organization, or doing field trips for this organization.
So we're going to be talking more about those field trips as well, including some of the specific ones, not all in the Cristo Rey area, even though that's a fascinating area. Certainly, we're talking more about some of the ones that you can see, the hikes up to. We talked about the B-36 crash last hour on the west side of the mountains. There were a couple of B-24 crashes on the east side of the mountains that can also still be seen. So we're going to be talking about those, the trips that you all have up there, and some of the history involved with it as well. So stay tuned. We're going to take that next break of this hour right now. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. I got to tell you about what we got coming up for you next week on the program, because at this point we usually tell you what's going on there. So next week we're going to be getting towards the end of the month, and of course this has been a Women's History Month, so we're going to be taking a particular look at aspects of El Paso's history through, well, one of the better ways it's been recorded, actually, through cookbooks, recipes, the sharing of it, and what it talks about for the culture both of the region and the women who put them together. Going to be speaking with Joseph Longo, author of several books on the subject, as well as a recent exhibition at the Magoffin Home State Historic Site. So that'll be next week on the program, again in honor of Women's History Month. So still joining us, and of course one more event we want to mention to you about here. We mentioned the train show that is still going on today until 5 p.m. at the Freeport McMoran Copper Refinery. But of course, coming up later this week, or in this coming week anyway, March 24th, Friday, the El Paso Corral of Westerners number 26 will meet at Luby's Cafeteria at 3601 North Mesa at 5:30 p.m., not too far from where we're recording right now. The program will be Pancho Villa's Revenge Road to Columbus, New Mexico, March 9th, 1916. And for information on that, give them a call at 915-241-6285. Again, 915-241-6285. But again, joining us here in studio right now, we do have William Lukefahr, Vice President of the Board, and Eric Kappus, Board Member with Celebration of Our Mountains. So when it comes to some of the history we're talking about, some of the hikes, we had discussed the B-36 crash site and the things that can be seen out there in the last hour of the program. But the reason that we're really talking about some of the plane crashes, because I'm not confident I have all of them down in what I was looking at here, because among other things, there's an interesting El Paso Times article from a few years ago at this point doing a kind of even further look back in time, titled 1943, 76 killed in 13 plane crashes in 15 months. Now, not all of those were in the Franklin Mountains. Some of them was regional, White Sands area, Alamogordo, Deming, and even up into Ruidoso. But still, the number of them that happened here in our area, besides the B-36, another one, and probably the second most famous, at least arguably I would say, but very well known by me and my family, would actually be the B-24s, plural in this case, but this is an example of one specifically, the B-24 that ended up, this is actually the plane and specifically the crew of one of them that in July of 1944 crashed into the east side of the Franklin Mountains. And this is one that you all have led hikes on and been on a hike yourself, right, Eric?
Yeah, we start at an intersection at the base of the Franklin Mountains and hike up one of the canyons. And there's it's not, the last part of the hike is tough, but it's a moderate hike, not too bad. And then there's a monument there. There's a constructed monument at the crash site. There's far less debris than the B-36, but still, my first time I was hiking up the canyon and we started to see debris on the canyon floor, and I found a shoe.
Oh, wow.
I found a shoe, and I don't know what that means, but yeah, it is, again, hiking up to these crash sites is a memorable experience.
Yeah, this one I have been to, maybe not directly to it, because, so we're talking around on the east side of the mountain, kind of centered around the A on the mountain. It's kind of a good point of reference for people to know where we're talking about in this circumstance. So again, kind of visible, but these were more kind of essentially navigation errors of crews that were either unfamiliar with town or weren't sure of the layout and ended up hitting pretty high up on the Franklin Mountains, in some cases just missing the peak, or clearing the peak, I should more accurately say. So this one, I've been up kind of a canyon around the side of it, and there is pretty far higher up on the canyon wall, I'd say a few 100 feet or so. Yeah, a kind of a metal box with a metal cross on top of it, probably about human size overall, the scale of the actual cross itself here. So again, that picture that we popped up here actually comes from my family history, among other things, because, as been noted by my father, among other things, this came from my great-aunt Mary. The story, as Jackson Polk told the city of El Paso, as is further put up on the digital wall at the El Paso History Museum downtown, this plane plus the flight crew and ground crew of the B-24 that crashed into the Mount Franklin on July of 1944. And so, as he recounts it, his aunt and my great-aunt Mary Jackson, Lady Mary Helms, was dating the pilot of the plane when it hit the mountain. He had given her this picture, and she put it to a file for 5 decades, kind of forgotten until after he died. It wasn't until we had some of that production of films about this and talking about the history of the mountains that she remembered she had this and pulled it out and actually gave it to us. And it's still in my parents' house to this day, actually, because among other things, my father has found buttons up there from like Army, at that point, Army Air Corps uniforms. So there's still plenty of things spread around here. So as much as we are talking about these hikes and things to do, there is an amount of reverence that should be kind of taken along with this, because these are sites where people perished, among other things, but they are also a part of the history and the features that we can see within the Franklin Mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when going to these, and so we say B-24s because there was another one that happened around that point in time. So that one we're talking about being in July. But even before that, I want to say that there was also a B-24 that hit in March 24th of 1944. So about a few months earlier previously had happened there, because, as we've previously mentioned earlier in this program, Biggs Army Airfield at, or Biggs Air Corps field at that point in time, before it was even the Air Force Base, was, this is the aerial view of it, quite the busy location, as we were still, among other things, midst of World War II at that point in time, and so an important transit point, among other things. So that's part of the reason we had all of this traffic coming in and around town. But when it comes to this picture, this image of it, and the training flights, because, Kastner was no longer much in operation, but McGregor Range and other parts of that, there are even some Army films from around that point in time, or even just films in general demonstrating those use of it. There was a training field for, among other things, to use this stuff. So the fact that these exist out there and are still present is significant. But then the actual hikes themselves there, you mentioned at least one of them. You said the July 1944 hike that you've been on there, and the other one can be seen, though isn't probably as well demarked, at least the way I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a monument at the March crash site. I've been to both, and Celebration of Our Mountains had guided hikes to both. But the March one, I remember less debris, I remember it being less significant, and it was a more difficult hike to get to.
Absolutely. We're not talking about locations that were selected because of their ease and ability to get to, but rather where the things ended up happening. So again, that's Eric Kappus, board member. Also joining us here in studio, William Lukefahr, vice president of the board with the Celebration of Our Mountains group, talking more about them and the way that they're revamping and having hikes like this. Got to take that next break right now, so stay tuned. More on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano, and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Doniphan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Doniphan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM in this pre-recorded episode. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, mentioning some of our other great partners in promoting this program, and definitely a lot of parts of El Paso. El Paso Inc., you can go there for our weekly promo announcements in the actual paper itself, usually in the B section. But if you want to receive El Paso's business journal, El Paso Inc. is available for home or business delivery. You can order it online or get an online subscription directly at elpasoinc.com. That's elpasoinc.com. So again, joining us here in studio right now, we do, of course, have William Lukefahr, Vice President of the board, and Eric Kappus, board member with Celebration of Our Mountains. Again, with all the stuff that they got going on, there's a lot of details we'll be getting to. So still talking about parts of the plane crashes that can be visited here. And so we realized as we were in this break right now that there may have been a finer point that we missed about those B-24 crashes that happened either in March or July of 1944, depending on which one you're talking about, that they were honestly pretty close to each other is kind of what happened, right?
Yeah, the both sites are on the north and south side of the A on the mountain. So when you look at the east side of the southern Franklin Mountains, Austin High School, I think, has a large white A on the mountain. Sure. And both crash sites are on the north and south side, but quite close to each other. I think that's in the flight path taking off from Biggs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Here we got, again, the aerial view of the actual airfield itself here. This one is, I want to say, from about the 50s or 60s, but that is still the main runway that exists out there today, that roughly, I think, 10,000-foot runway. And so this is more or less a north to south view. If people are looking with us online, you can kind of see the first span of, I think that's Railroad Drive right over there, so you can kind of get the orientation of it. And yeah, essentially the runway, if you're taking it towards the south kind of ports, it goes more or less almost cardinally southwest rather, and so that would lead it towards about straight to that point here. So what we're talking about often with these things is that we have these unfamiliar air crews. I mean, there's a lot of weather events that ended up coming as part of all of these crashes we're talking about so far. The B-36 that we mentioned in the last hour, part of the reason that picture was taken is because it had been noted by some people living in El Paso that this one heavy bomber kept buzzing around, as opposed to, I mean, air traffic wasn't unfamiliar at that point in time, but usually it's a straight in and, land kind of thing, as opposed to circling. So part of the story at that point in time was that that the instrumentation wasn't working. They were not able to figure it out. And some of the theories I've heard, the actual like Air Force investigation at that point in time for that crash that again happened on the west side of the mountains was that it was pilot error, and that the instrumentation wasn't working. There was a transfer to town, a new crew in that case. And so the theory I've had put to me that I tend to believe is that they may have known that the Franklin Mountains were there. They may have flown over Crazy Cat because it was a overcast day, low-lying clouds. They may have flown over Crazy Cat thinking, oh, there's the mountain, and missed the top by, like, again, that couple of 100 feet. But yeah, the B-24s that we're then talking about, I've actually had a chance to be in a B-24, obviously not this one, but a one that is still flying with some of the, like, commemorative Air Force and things like that. These are not spacious airframes. In fact, if you're trying to transfer between, say, that front area, the kind of a glass enclosure where, some of the bombardier positions and, front-facing machine guns would be, it's cramped. Like you're literally going through a tunnel about the size of several shoe boxes is kind of what it felt like. I mean, people were smaller back then, among other things, but it's not comfy. Let's just put it that way. There's not a lot. Creature comforts was not the concept there. And in those cases, we're talking about these impacts happening on the east side of the mountains, and there was at least more than a couple of mentions of there being inclement weather involved with that as well, and also unfamiliar air crews, etc. I kind of have a suspicion on my own that all of these situations that we're talking about is probably part of the reason that the Air Force eventually decided to no longer be in charge of that airfield, among other things. I mean, sure, there's base realignment, closure, stuff that come along with that. But given the fact that, again, that just one example, that one very specific time period of, 76 killed, 13 plane crashes in 15 months, made me think that probably someone in the Air Force, at least or higher up in military command, thought, why do we have all these airfields of things going on near mountains? Like, what's going on here? Because the technology was very different at that point in time. We were talking during the break, William specifically, about the fact that these were the primary strategic weapons of the U.S., as much as, sure, at White Sands, rocketry programs, ICBMs, and things like that, and the engines that would go into them were under development. This was still very nascent technology at that point in time.
Right. Before intercontinental missiles, planes were the way that we transported our most powerful and potent weapons. I think the B-36 had the record for the longest flight time, up to 45 hours, I think, one mission.
Yeah, so, they were huge. And
huge planes. I think it was 400,000 pounds without any weapons in them. So these were big planes, and that's why the B-36 crash site, has so much debris, because these are really large planes.
They were huge, and even had, they could, 400,000 pounds without bombs is what I've seen. And they could even they were specifically designed around and for the Mark 17 thermonuclear bombs that were developed later on that will not even fit in a B-52. It's so huge. So, yeah, these were the premier weapons of the day. And so them being focused here kind of on, borders, areas where it would need to be most accessible to where you're going to be potentially dropping these made sense. But again, the fact that they kind of kept having these type of issues here, again, makes me wonder if this was part of why they decided to no longer be here. But that's, we've talked about a few of these things, but bringing it back to the B-24s then, the whole concept that they were nearby-ish to each other, again, leads to kind of that. I would agree with you on your kind of supposition that may have been just a trajectory issue and people being unfamiliar with the terrain and not knowing they have to get over it, because notably with all the ones we've talked about anyway, these were not issues with the planes. These were not, we are having malfunctions and unable to pull up. These were full speed, full force, smack into the mountain kind of incidents.
Yeah. I hate to think about what the crew went through, but I'm imagining inclement weather and some kind of confusion, or maybe they weren't even aware that they were in trouble. And then, you're flying along in the fog, and all of a sudden the last thing you see is rock, is the mountain.
Yep, the impending rock there. So that's a couple of them, but there have been other incidents in our area that are harder to see, including found mention of an actual other B-24 crash that happened where the crew bailed out and the airframe continued on. Then it is crash course into the Guadalupe Mountains. And again, the number of ones, that number I keep mentioning of the 13 plane crashes in 15 months is noted by the El Paso Times some years ago as being regionally around the area. And so that led me to one that, as we're doing research on this, was fascinating to me, because I had no idea that this plane had even been potentially operating in our area. Wasn't exactly, but it definitely finished operation in this area, the SR-71 Blackbird. If anyone has ever heard of this airframe, it's essentially, the fastest plane that almost ever existed, because it was that very almost futuristic, streamlined looking spy plane. It was not a bomber in this case, but still military application on its own. If anyone's ever seen the pilots that have to go into this, they're basically wearing a spared down spacesuit is what it comes down, because they're operating at such high altitude. And it was a fascinating airframe, but one of the sides of it is that it couldn't be fully fueled on the ground, because if it was sitting on the ground fully fueled, it would be leaking fuel all the time, because this was known as the sled, among other things, because it went so fast as a rocket sled. Didn't really have rockets. It had specific jet engines, and there was almost at certain points in time nothing that could touch it, whether fired from the ground or from another airframe. But it had to be refueled in air because it was leaky. Because when it went at full speed, it would tighten up and all of the seals would go together. So it had to be refueled. And so the circumstance that happened in and around this area was actually that this one later on, we're talking about a lot of the 40s and 50s with the previous plane crashes, but this was actually in 1917, June of 1970, that this was happening. So this is not the exact picture of the incident, but very similar to what it would have looked like. It was doing refueling from a KC-130 tanker, and so the story goes that there was either some kind of error, some atmospheric thing where the plane bucked up as it was trying to do if you've ever seen the aerial refueling pictures, we have the kind of long trailing line that comes out of the tanker plane and has to match up just perfectly, and this kind of aerial acrobatics happening between the two planes. And the SR-71 ended up actually, unfortunately, hitting or being incapacitated by that. And so the pilots actually had to eject. And so the reason we're talking about that in our area, because no, this was not based out of El Paso or happening here, but it ended up having to have the ejection happen, and the crash happened about 20, is the most I've seen, some 20 miles east of El Paso, just kind of out into the desert. Now, the actual tanker plane did actually manage to end up landing, but the fact of the matter is that I've seen what have purported to be some aerial pictures of actually still the crater site out there. So this one's a little bit harder to find because it's out in the desert and largely, for the most part, not accessible. But there have been some people who have searched this out here, and actually had an interesting story that even happened to you recently involving that, right, Eric?
Oh, yeah. I rolled up to the window at Starbucks, and I was on my way to lead a field trip for celebration of our mountains. And so the barista started chatting me up, and I told him what we were on our way to go do. And he pulled out a bolt or a piece of debris that he had found. And he's the one who first told me about the SR-71 crash site. I had never heard of it before, but he said he went out there with some friends, and they had to drive around a good bit, but they found it. They found this big depression with a bunch of debris. I asked him what was the biggest piece of debris he found, and he said real small, that the plane was utterly destroyed. Yeah, and he gave me the bolt. He said it was made from a non-rusting metal, and I think he told me it was platinum, but I'm not sure about the construction of those aircraft. But yeah, it was funny, and that's how I heard about the crash.
So the area that I've had pinpointed for me in doing the research on this is kind of in between, like Montana, basically, 62 really, and then I-10, kind of a little bit southeastern of, like, say, Homestead Meadows south. So not on the Fort Bliss side of things, so it could be considered accessible. And if you, again, the pictures I've seen purporting to be of it from a satellite, there is a identifiable crater type area from it there. But given that this was, again, one of the most top secret planes, particularly at that point in time, really before the advent of what kind of took over from it, of all of the satellite and those kind of signals, it's kind of funny to me that we no longer use this airframe, and yet the U-2 spy plane is still sticking around even until this day, because I guess of cost and things like that, bean counters and such. But yeah, so there's actually evidence that this, and it did identifiably end up crashing out here in 1970, but trying to find parts of it, I'm not sure if you really could anymore, because I'm sure that thing hit very fast, and a lot of it was probably scraped up, because that was top secret stuff at that point in time. But that's just kind of examples of all the crazy things that we've had in and around this area, and thankfully in this one no one got hurt, but still kind of a crazy circumstance that this you can potentially find out there. So I've found GPS coordinates for this one previously, but not currently, so I don't have any good ones that I can give out, but all the notes I'm seeing about it is definitely saying don't go out there without a 4x4. Particularly if it's rained recently.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's sandy, and especially south of Montana, it gets quite sandy in that area.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm trying to put it in like relation to the Red Sands area. It's not exactly south of that, but essentially it's kind of right before you start getting the real major parts of the Waco or the kind of mountains as you head out that way. But definitely south of Montana and north of I-10. But it's even like if you kind of draw a triangle between Homestead Meadows South and Horizon City, it would be almost a right angle away from that. So I would recommend people look it up if you're interested about this. But again, joining us here in studio, William Lukefahr, and of course that's Eric Kappus, both board members and vice president, opposite direction, of course, when it comes to the celebration of our mountains. So I'm going to take that next break right now. Coming out of this, tell you a little bit more about them and close out the show. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. Visit Mission Del Rey Southwest for a huge selection of El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gifts. Mission Del Rey features El Paso saddle blanket products and thousands of Southwest, Native American, and Mexico items, plus unique pottery, blankets, and turquoise jewelry. Bring your family and out-of-town guests to visit Mission Del Rey Southwest's large showroom at Lee Trevino and Pelicano and see their website at missiondelrey.com. 915-440-2140 for souvenirs, gifts, and decor. Mission Del Rey Southwest. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152. M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. M1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, and again, joining us here in studio have been William Lukefahr, Vice President of the Board, and Eric Kappus, Board Member with Celebration of Our Mountains. We've covered a lot of ground when it comes to different hikes, different things that y'all do, as well as a lot of the plane crashes that you can both see and y'all have led hikes to. And there's at least one more there that I didn't want to be remiss about that y'all had ready to talk about, the Bamboo Bomber, quote unquote. That is also a hike that you all have led, right?
Yeah, it's I think it's in the northern Franklin's, and of course called the Bamboo Bomber because of all the wooden parts that were on the plane. But yeah.
Specifically, that was a Cessna UC-78, which was a trainer, essentially. It was a twin-engine trainer for those then going on to then fly the full-on bombers. And so during one of those training missions, we did have one of those crashes happen in the Franklin Mountains as well. One of the closest areas about it actually is off of Shepherd Avenue. So, yeah, that more or less fits there as well. So those are some of the stuff that y'all have had going on and will continue to do so. But really, if people want to get involved, if they want to know what's going on here now, again, those new meetings or the return to meetings that you all are having is kind of one of the best ways for them to do it, right?
Yeah, we're going to bring back going back to our roots and the monthly meetings at Ardovino's. That I think we were holding monthly meetings at Ardovino's for almost 10 years or 8 years before we stopped. So all of us miss it. We miss hanging out there.
Absolutely. So people can come out there, talk with you all, find out information. And again, if people want to get involved, there's a couple different ways they can do it. Again, the meetings, which will be starting last Thursdays of each month, beginning in April at 7 p.m. at Ardovino Desert Crossing, like we're talking about here. But really, if people want to get involved, what kind of things do they need to know, where you want them to know, or what would you be looking for, really?
Just people who love the desert. People, it's not just mountains, like we were talking in between. Celebration of Our Mountains is not just the Franklins, the whole area of Chihuahuan Desert. So,
absolutely,
like we mentioned before, you just have to be passionate about your field of interest. You don't necessarily have to be an expert, but that's what we have the meetings for, just to talk, see what kind of events we can plan around town, or what other events are already happening. So yeah, just passion for your field and getting out hiking, getting out in the desert.
And a big part of what we do is cross promotion and collaboration. I mean, William's a biologist and I'm a geologist, and we lead trips together. We complement each other and let each other sing to the group, take turns singing to the group, if you will. So
okay,
yeah, but we're all about collaboration.
Absolutely. So promoting other things going on, we'll keep talking about it as well. And definitely, if people want to find out, again, those meetings going on, but if they want to get information beforehand, there's, of course, the Celebration of Our Mountains site, some revamping going on there. So to get direct contact right now, best one to do so would be philipgoodell43@gmail.com is the email address. Again, that's PHILIPGOODELL43@gmail.com. So again, joining us here in studio right now have been William Lukefahr, Vice President of the Board, and Eric Kappus, Board Member with Celebration of Our Mountains. Thank you both very much for coming in to talk to us about what you have going on, some of the history involved in it, and what's going on going forward for y'all here today.
Thank you.
And thank you all very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll do it again next weekend, 10 to noon, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Have a great weekend, y'all. See y'all at the Peppies.